Sage Sue, give your kidney to Iris, she's not going to make it. Nico Gu was choking me, his eyes bloodshot. I laughed until tears streamed down my face. In my past life, I was foolish enough to be coaxed by him into giving up my kidney, only to end up dying on a hospital bed. Alright, Nico Gu, I'll give it to you. I looked at him, word by word. I hope you won't regret it. One divorce declaration. Sage Sue, what on earth are you making a fuss about? Nico Gu's impatient voice came through the receiver, tinged with a hint of a hangover's hoarseness and the faint scent of another woman's perfume. I held the phone, staring at the glaring sunlight outside the window, and for a moment, I thought I was still in that cold, rainy night. That rainy night, Iris hit me with her car, dragged my crippled leg, and said with a laugh, Sage Sue, you've lost, completely and utterly. And Nico Gu, my husband, was in the next room. Holding the hand of the one who caused the accident, comforting her softly, he said, Iris, don't be afraid, I'm here. Ha, how ridiculous. My life, in his eyes, is probably not even worth a single strand of Iris' hair. I closed my eyes and then opened them again, finding myself in the familiar apartment, the marital home I shared with Nico Gu. Our sweet wedding photo still hung on the wall. In the picture, I was smiling like a naive fool, completely unaware of the world. Back then, I had no idea what kind of despicable schemes were hidden behind this marriage. Speak up, Sage Sue. Nico Gu's voice rose sharply, clearly having lost all patience. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice calm. Nico Gu, let's get a divorce. On the other end of the phone, there was a dead silence for a few seconds. Then came Nico Gu's cold laugh. Sage Sue, what kind of trick are you playing now? I've told you, aside from the position of Mrs. Gu, you won't get anything else. Yes. He was that confident. Confident that I loved him to the bone and couldn't live without him. I used to be exactly like that, like a moth to a flame. I embraced it willingly. But now, I touched my lower abdomen, where a little life had once grown, only to be taken from me forever because of Iris' meticulously planned unintentional mistake. That pain, searing and unforgettable, gnaws at my soul day and night. I'm not joking, I said, word by word, with absolute clarity. Nico Gu, I've already signed the divorce papers. They're in the study. Take a look, and if there are no issues, please sign them. After saying that, without waiting for his response, I hung up the phone directly. I threw the phone onto the sofa, and it made a dull thud. I stood up and walked over to the full-length mirror. The woman in the mirror had a pale face with faint dark circles under her eyes, but her gaze was unusually bright, carrying a coldness that seemed to see through everything. That is the light of rebirth, and also the flame of revenge. Yes, I was reborn. Reborn at a time when all tragedies had not yet occurred, or rather, had not yet worsened to the extreme. I remember, today is the day Iris returns to the country in glory. It is also the day Nico Gu, for the first time, laid hands on me because of her. In my previous life, I cried, made a scene, and begged, but all I got in return was his deepening disgust and the mocking stares of others. This time, I won't. Nico Gu, Iris and all those who aided and abetted, what you owe me, I will reclaim bit by bit. With interest, the sudden ring of the doorbell interrupted my thoughts. I know, his back. He came rather quickly. It seems my divorce declaration caught him off guard. I curled my lips into a smile, walked to the door, and pulled it open. Nico Gu stood outside the door, his handsome face filled with anger, his brows tightly furrowed, and his eyes sharp enough to pierce right through me. Sage Sue, you'd better give me an explanation, he growled, his tone carrying its usual air of finality. To the truth revealed. Explain what? I looked at him calmly, even smiling slightly, a smile that didn't reach my eyes, tinged with a hint of mockery. Explain why I've come to my senses and decided to let you go, and to let myself go too, or explain how I've finally seen the truth about certain people and certain things. Nico Gu clearly didn't expect me to react this way. In his mind, I was always gentle, submissive, and obedient to him. Even if he stayed out all night and made headlines with Iris, I would only ask cautiously with red-rimmed eyes, "Do you still love me?" After receiving his perfunctory answer, I would silently swallow all my grievances. He froze, his frown deepening. "Are you out of your mind? Or did someone stir you up again?" "Maybe I am," I turned sideways to let him in. The divorce agreement is in the study. You can take a look first. Oh. And regarding the division of property, I understand how hard it is for you to earn money, so I'm willing to leave with nothing. At these words, Nikogu's eyes grew even more suspicious. He walked past me with a cold expression, striding toward the study. I followed behind him at a leisurely pace. The air was filled with the lingering scent of the limited edition perfume Iris he often used, which clung to him, pungent and nauseating. Last night. They must have had a very pleasant time. So pleasant that he didn't even have time to change his clothes. In the study, the divorce agreement lay quietly on the expensive rosewood desk. Nikogu picked up those few sheets of paper and quickly skimmed through them. When he saw the section on property division, where I had voluntarily given up all marital assets, clearly stating that I would leave with nothing, his pupils suddenly constricted. He looked up at me sharply. His eyes filled with scrutiny and deeper suspicion. Sage Su, what exactly are you trying to do, playing hard to get, or trying to get my attention this way? I want a divorce, I repeated, my tone devoid of any emotion, as if stating an established fact. For what reason? He pressed, his tone aggressive. Because Iris is back, Sage Su. I've told you long ago that Iris holds a place in my heart that you can't compare to. If you know what's good for you, you should just stay in your place. He's always so self-righteous, so casually trampling on my dignity, thinking the whole world revolves around him, believing that all my emotions are because of him. Yes, and no, I said calmly. Iris Ye's return was indeed the trigger. But what truly made me despair is your deeply ingrained ruthlessness and indifference, Nikogu, and the nauseating scheming of your GU family. At this time in my previous life, I was still unaware that this seemingly glamorous marriage was nothing more than the GU family's scheme to exploit the Su family's overseas connections to salvage their precarious business, and I was merely a pawn to be used and discarded. What do you mean? Nikogu's voice turned cold, tinged with a hint of anger at being defied. It means, I met his gaze. My eyes resolute and icy. Nikogu, I have no attachment to you left. Divorce is my only demand now. As for the reason, you know it well. No need for me to elaborate. He seemed stung by my gaze, slamming the divorce agreement onto the table with a loud thud. Sage Su, don't push your luck, he fumed. My marriage with Nikogu isn't something you can just end with a word. Don't even think about it. Oh, is that so? I raised an eyebrow, my tone laced with a hint of amusement. Then what do you plan to do? Keep dragging it out like this, spending your days cozying up to your pure and innocent white moonlight, then coming home at night to give me the cold shoulder. Nikogu, don't you find it exhausting? I'm tired just watching you. Oh, and by the way, let me remind you, bigamy is against the law. These words, like poisoned daggers, stabbed deep into Nikogu's heart. His face turned ashen, his chest heaving violently, clearly enraged beyond measure. At that moment, his phone rang, the screen lit up with the name Iris, shining like a piercing light. He glanced at the caller ID, and his eyes instantly softened, even carrying a hint of barely noticeable nervousness and affection, a stark contrast to the irritability he showed when facing me, without avoiding me. He answered the call directly, his voice so gentle it could melt water. Hey, Iris, yeah, I'll be right there, don't worry, I've got you, okay, wait for me. After hanging up, he didn't even glance at me, just grabbed his car keys and walked out as if I were air. As he reached the door, he seemed to remember something, stopped in his tracks, turned around, and said coldly to me, Sage Su, don't even think about divorce, I won't agree to it, and stop playing these boring games. It only makes me look down on you even more. With that, he walked away without looking back. The door was slammed shut with a heavy thud, making a loud noise that shook the wedding photo hanging on the wall. I stood where I was, staring at the tightly closed door, the smile on my lips growing wider, tinged with a hint of bloodthirsty satisfaction. Nikogu, do you really think just because you don't agree, I can't get a divorce? Too naive. What I couldn't obtain in my previous life, in this life, I'll make you beg me to take it with tears. Just wait, the real show has only just begun. I walked to the balcony and watched Nikogu's car speeding away in a hurry. He was driving fast, probably eager to see his beloved. It's fine, I'm in no rush, I have plenty of time to play with you all slowly. In this life, I will no longer be like a resentful woman, guarding an empty house, waiting for a man who doesn't love me. I will live my own life and make those who have hurt me pay the price they deserve. First, I will gather evidence of how your GU family schemed against my Su family back then. 3 Reunion and confrontation. Nico GU left again, and 3 more days passed. For 3 days, not a single phone call or message. It was as if I had completely vanished from his world. I was happy to have the peace and quiet, and I took advantage of this time to focus on my own matters. First, I contacted the top divorce lawyer in the industry, the ace attorney Zhong. In my previous life, I had also sought his help. But back then, I was disheartened and just wanted a quick way out, so I didn't fight for many of my rights. This time, I consulted him in detail about divorce proceedings and shared with him the preliminary evidence I had gathered regarding Nico Gu's marital infidelity, as well as my suspicions about potential commercial fraud behind the GU family's marriage alliance. After listening to my account, lawyer Zhong's gaze sharpened. Mrs. GU. If it can be proven that the GU family indeed engaged in fraudulent behavior when arranging the marriage with you, and if you can provide substantial evidence of Mr. Gu's misconduct during the marriage, you will be in a very advantageous position when it comes to the division of assets. I know. I nodded. I will do my best to gather the relevant evidence. I don't want the GU family's dirty money, but I need them to pay for their actions. In my previous life, I left with nothing. In this life, why should I let that despicable couple and their filthy family get off easy? Secondly, I began to seek a way out for myself, or rather, to reclaim my life. Over the years, for Nico GU, I gave up my beloved career in jewelry design and willingly became the gentle and virtuous Mrs. GU behind him, navigating social occasions for him and taking meticulous care of him in daily life. Looking back now, it was utterly foolish to use my talent and youth to support an ungrateful person. Fortunately, my major in college was jewelry design, and I had even won several international awards, gaining some recognition in the industry. However, after marriage, I gradually faded into obscurity. I dug out my old design drafts, those dreams that had been shelved, and they still shine brightly today. I reached out to a few industry seniors who had once expressed admiration for my work and sent them my latest design drafts. Perhaps I can start over, using my own hands to create a future that belongs to me. That afternoon, I was at home organizing those dusty design drafts and competition certificates when the doorbell suddenly rang. I thought it was Nico GU returning, and I sneered inwardly, wondering if he had finally decided to show his face. I walked over to open the door. Standing outside was someone unexpected, yet someone I had anticipated. Iris Yi. She was wearing the latest Chanel white dress, which made her look like a pristine white lotus untouched by dust. With delicate, light makeup and wavy, voluminous hair, she appeared gentle and harmless, yet a hint of barely noticeable smugness and provocation lurked in her eyes. But I knew that beneath this pitiful exterior lay a heart full of malice and greed. Sister Sage Su, may I come in and sit for a while? She asked softly, her eyes carrying just the right amount of timidity and innocence, as if I were the one who might harm her. If I hadn't experienced her ruthless methods in my previous life, I might have been completely fooled by her masterful acting skills. Is there something you need, Miss Yi? I blocked the doorway, making no move to let her in, my tone distant. A flicker of embarrassment crossed Iris Yi's face, but it was quickly replaced by her signature innocent smile. Sister Sage Su, I know you're angry because of what happened between me and Brother Nico, but Brother Nico and we're truly in love. Matters of the heart are really hard to control. Truly in love. I let out a light laugh, as if I had just heard the most ridiculous joke. Missy, does your so-called true love mean inserting yourself into someone else's marriage and shamelessly playing the other woman, or is your true love actually about the GU family's wealth and status? My words were unsparing, like a sharp knife tearing through her hypocritical mask. Iris Yi's face instantly turned pale. She bit her lower lip, her eyes quickly reddening, looking as if she were about to burst into tears, as though she had suffered an immense injustice. Sage Su, how could you say that to me? I met Nico before you did. If I hadn't been forced to go abroad for further studies, the one standing by Nico's side should have been me. It was you. You took everything that should have been mine." As she spoke, her tone took on a hint of venom. This was the same twisted narrative all over again. In my past life, she had used this very story to drive me to madness and make Nico Gu despise me even more, thinking I was unreasonable and narrow-minded. "Missy," I interrupted her, my voice icy, "there are no what-ifs in the past. The reality now is that Nico Gu is my lawful husband, and you are the third party who has disrupted our marriage. As for your claim of stealing, I'd like to ask, were you really forced to go abroad back then? Or was it because of some shady dealings that you had to leave temporarily?" My insinuating words made Iris Yee's face turn even more unpleasant. "I'm not," Iris Yee retorted urgently, her voice sharpening. "Nico doesn't love you at all. The one he loves is me. Sage Su, I beg you, let us be together. Let Nico go, and let yourself go too." Clinging to the position of Mrs. Gu like this will only bring pain to all three of us. As she spoke, she even reached out to grab my hand. Putting on an act of sisterly affection and heartfelt sincerity, I stepped back in disgust, avoiding her touch, my gaze as cold as frost. "Let you off," I sneered. "Iris Yee, what right do you have to say that to me, when you hit me with your car, caused me to miscarry, and nearly left me disabled? Why didn't you think about letting me off? When you and Nico Gu teamed up to scheme for the Su family's assets, why didn't you think about letting me off?" As soon as these words were spoken, Iris Yee's expression completely changed. The fragility and timidity in her eyes vanished in an instant, replaced by a barely concealed panic and resentment. What nonsense are you talking about? When did I ever hit you? What Su family assets? I don't understand," she denied outright. Though her eyes darted away nervously, I looked at her with a cold and sharp gaze, as if I could see through all her disguises. "Iris Yee, stop pretending. Do you think you've covered all your tracks? If you don't want others to know, you shouldn't have done it. In my previous life, I had no evidence and could only let you twist the truth. But in this life, do you really think I'll be that foolish again?" Just then, the familiar sound of footsteps echoed in the hallway, steady and powerful. It was Nico Gu. He saw Iris Yee and me confronting each other at the door, and his brows immediately furrowed, a flicker of displeasure flashing in his eyes. The calm before the storm, what are you doing?" Nico Gu's voice carried obvious displeasure and a barely noticeable tension. He quickly walked over to Iris Yee, instinctively shielding her behind him, and looked at me warily, as if I were the unreasonable villain who would harm his beloved. This scene felt all too familiar. In my past life, he had done the same thing countless times, shielding Iris Yee while using the most hurtful words to accuse me. Iris Yee immediately seized the opportunity, leaning weakly against Nico Gu. Her voice trembled with tears, and her eyes welled up like broken strings of pearls. "Nico, I just wanted to explain things properly to Sage Su, hoping she wouldn't misunderstand us. But she didn't believe me. She even accused me of bumping into her and said we were scheming against the Su family. I really didn't." She spoke while shedding tears of grievance, her shoulders trembling slightly, looking utterly pitiful. Her acting was worthy of an Oscar. Nico Gu's face instantly darkened. His gaze toward me filled with reproach and deep disappointment, as if I had committed some unforgivable crime. "Sage Su, that's enough. Iris came to see you with good intentions, hoping to clear up the misunderstanding, and this is how you treat her. How can you be so malicious?" he scolded sharply, each word lashing at my heart like a whip. "Good intentions," I sneered, meeting his furious gaze without fear. "Nico Gu, which eye of yours saw her good intentions? She came here to flaunt her power, to force me into a divorce so she can rightfully take the position of Mrs. Gu, can't she? As for being malicious, compared to the dirty deeds some people have done, my straightforward words probably don't even come close." Nico Gu was left speechless by my retort, his chest heaving violently, his handsome face contorted with anger. "Nico, don't be angry." Iris Yee quickly grabbed Nico Gu's arm, using her uniquely soft, almost dripping with tenderness voice to persuade him. "Sage Su might just be in a bad mood and not thinking clearly right now. Don't take it to heart. I believe this isn't like Sage Su's true nature. Her act of feigned magnanimity and understanding only made me seem more like an unreasonable, narrow-minded shrew." What a clever tactic. Nico Gu took a deep breath, seemingly trying hard to suppress his anger. and said to me, "Sage Sue, Iris isn't well. Don't provoke her with such vicious words anymore. If there's anything, we can talk about it later. If you still care about the GU family's reputation, behave yourself." After speaking, he was about to help the unsteady Iris leave, as if looking at me for one more second would dirty his eyes. "Wait." I called out to stop them, my voice not loud but carrying an undeniable chill. Nico Gu turned back impatiently, his brow furrowed. "What else do you want, Sage Sue? My patience has its limits." I walked up to them, my gaze passing over Nico Gu to look directly at the tear-streaked face behind him, and said word by word, "Iris I don't care what kind of sordid relationship you have with Nico Gu, nor do I care how deeply you think you love each other, but I'm warning you, stay away from me. Don't show up in front of me again, and don't disturb my life anymore. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite. Some things, once exposed, won't do anyone any good, do you understand?" My gaze was icy, my tone carrying an undeniable firmness and a hint of threat. Iris was intimidated by my imposing presence and instinctively shrank behind Nico Gu, a flicker of fear in her eyes. Nico Gu's expression grew even more unpleasant. He felt his authority was being challenged like never before. "Sage Sue, you're utterly unreasonable, biting people like a mad dog," he roared. "Iris is a guest I invited. What right do you have to kick her out? This family isn't yours to rule." "Your guest," I sneered, scanning the room that was once filled with my heart and soul. "Nico Gu, have you forgotten? This is my home, a legally recognized marital home. I have the right to decide who can come in and who must get out. As for you, if you insist on defending this third party, then please, both of you, get out." Nico Gu trembled with rage, suddenly raising his hand as if he intended to hit me. I didn't flinch, just stared at him coldly, my eyes filled with contempt and defiance. I knew he wouldn't dare, at least not now. Not in front of Iris not while he still needed to maintain his ridiculous gentlemanly demeanor and family reputation. Sure enough, his hand froze mid-air, the veins on the back of it bulging. Seeing this, a faint, almost imperceptible glint of triumph flashed in Iris' eyes, but she quickly grabbed his arm, crying, "Nico, forget it, let's go. I don't want to cause trouble between you and your wife because of me. It's all my fault, I shouldn't have come." Nico Gu shot me a fierce glare, his eyes seeming to want to devour me whole. Then, carefully supporting the delicate and helpless Iris, he turned and walked away without a backward glance. As if fleeing from a plague-stricken place, watching their flustered, retreating figures, the curve of my smile grew wider, tinged with a cold sense of satisfaction. "Nico Gu, Iris this is just the beginning. The pain and humiliation you've brought me, I will return it to you twofold." I closed the door, shutting out the nauseating atmosphere outside. Back in the study, I turned on the miniature voice recorder I had prepared earlier. Every word of their conversation had been clearly captured. Lawyer Zhong mentioned that while this may not serve as direct evidence, it can be used as supplementary material to prove the inappropriate relationship between Nico Gu and Iris as well as the psychological pressure they exerted on me. I saved the recording file and sent it to Lawyer Zhong. In the following days, Nico Gu did not return, and Iris did not show up again either. I enjoyed the peace and quiet, focusing on my own matters, besides jewelry design. I also began investigating the truth behind the Gu family's marriage alliance with the Su family back then, as well as their crucial overseas project. In my previous life, this project later encountered a major flaw that directly led to the decline of the Gu family. In this life, I will ensure it delivers a fatal blow to the Gu family at the most critical moment, in an even more devastating way. 5. The truth about the car accident. I was buried in a pile of early financial statements and project documents of the GU Group, trying to uncover the specific details of how they had exploited the Su family's overseas channels back in the day. When the phone rang, it was an unfamiliar number, but I had a hunch. After answering, a voice that was aged and somewhat frail, yet still carried a hint of sharpness, came through. Is this Sage Sue?" I sneered inwardly but kept my expression neutral. "Mom, what do you need?" "That's right. It's my dear mother-in-law, Nico Gu's mother, Lin Huafang. Sage Sue, you and Nico, did you have a fight? It seems quite serious. On the other end of the phone, my mother-in-law's voice carried a hint of cautious probing, a stark contrast to the domineering old lady I remembered who always ordered me around. It seems that either Nico GU or Iris Yi has complained about me in front of her, or perhaps Nico GU has finally told her about my intention to divorce. Mom. Just say what you need to say. I didn't want to beat around the bush with her. Alas, the mother-in-law sighed, her tone suddenly turning earnest. Nico has been stubborn since he was a child, and his temper isn't the best. You two, as a couple, may quarrel at the head of the bed but make up at the foot of it. Just talk things out. Don't bring up divorce so easily. It hurts the relationship too much. Our GU family can't afford to lose face like this. From her tone, it was clear she already knew about Nico GU and me filing for divorce, and she was still emphasizing the GU family's reputation. Mom, it's not as simple as a quarrel between Nico GU and me, I said calmly. There's no more affection between us. Forcing ourselves to stay together would only be torture for everyone. Nonsense. Her tone suddenly turned stern, revealing her usual domineering side. How can there be no affection when you've only been married for such a short time? I think you're just being unreasonable, Sage Sue. Let me tell you, there's no precedent for divorce in our GU family. Don't even think about it. You'd better drop that idea right now and behave yourself as Mrs. GU. Sure enough, the fox's tail is showing. She wasn't here to mediate at all, but to pressure and warn me. Mom, this is between me and Nico GU. We'll handle it ourselves. There's no need for you to worry about it. I didn't want to waste my breath on her, because I knew it was impossible to reason with such a selfish person. You'll handle it yourself. What can you possibly handle? My mother-in-law's tone was full of disdain and contempt. Sage Sue, I know you have issues with Iris and think she stole Nico from you, but Iris is in poor health and is a simple, kind-hearted girl who has been close to Nico since they were children. As her sister-in-law, can't you be more generous and considerate? Nico, he just pities Iris. That's why he takes extra care of her. Don't keep targeting her. It makes you look so petty, simple and kind-hearted. Pity. I'm practically laughing in disbelief at her shameless, truth-twisting remarks. If Iris Yi is considered pure and kind, then there are no malicious women in this world. Mom. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my voice calm, but the chill in my tone was unmistakable. If you called just to defend that homewrecker Iris Yi and criticize me, the legal wife, for not being generous enough, then I think we have nothing more to discuss. You should focus more on your precious son's health instead of letting an outsider disrupt your family. What kind of attitude is that? My mother-in-law's anger flared up, her voice sharp and piercing. Sage Sue, I am your mother-in-law. Is this how you speak to me? Don't forget, you're living off the GU family, eating their food and staying in their home. Believe me, with just one word from me, I can make Nico completely despise you, kick you out with nothing, and send you packing from the GU family. Is that so? I sneered, my tone dripping with disdain. Then why don't you give it a try, see if your precious son still listens to you now, and see if I, Sage Sue, am really that easy to push around. Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you, I've already signed the divorce papers, and I'm just waiting for Nico GU to sign them. As for leaving with nothing, I made it clear long ago that I don't want a single penny from your GU family. With that, I hung up the phone. Listening to even one more word would have felt like dirtying my ears. Hearing the busy tone from my phone, I felt nothing but satisfaction. In my past life, I cared too much about this mother-in-law's feelings, always holding back and giving in, which only made her push further. She joined forces with Iris Yi to corner me, and in the end, they even schemed to take away the only memento my parents left me, the shares of the Sue Group. In this life, I won't make the same mistake again. None of the GU family members, from top to bottom, are any good, as I was thinking. My phone rang again. The screen lit up with the name Nico GU. He probably received his mother's exaggerated complaint call and is now coming to demand an explanation. I curled my lips into a smile, leisurely answered the call, and prepared to enjoy his helpless rage. Sage Sue, what the hell did you say to my mother? As soon as the call connected, Nico GU's roar came through, making my ears ring. I was just telling the truth, I replied calmly, my tone as still as deep water. The truth. I think you're deliberately trying to anger my mother to death. She's not in good health. If anything happens to her, I won't let you off. Nico Gu was furious, his voice filled with threat. Won't let me off, I scoffed, my tone dripping with sarcasm. Nico Gu, what else can you do besides threaten me? If you have the guts, come back now and sign the divorce agreement with me. We'll go our separate ways, and it'll be better for both of us. You can openly be with your pure and kind Iris without having to sneak around anymore. Dream on. Nico Gu gritted his teeth and snarled, Sage Su, let me tell you, I will never divorce you. Give up on that idea. The position of Mrs. Gu is yours, whether you want it or not. Is that so? I chuckled lightly, my tone resolute. Nico Gu, don't speak so confidently. We'll see, let's see who ends up begging whom for a divorce. After saying that, I once again hung up on him without hesitation. When dealing with a self-righteous man like this, you can't give him any leeway. The more submissive you are, the more he looks down on you. The tougher you are, the more he'll start to fear you and take you seriously. The next few days were unexpectedly calm. Nico Gu did not contact me again, and Iris Yi and my mother-in-law seemed to have vanished into thin air. I enjoyed the peace and threw myself wholeheartedly into my plans. Things were progressing smoothly with the lawyer. We had already gathered some indirect evidence of Nico Gu's extramarital affair, as well as records of his multiple large transfers to Iris Yi, although it might not be enough to leave him with nothing. It would at least give us the upper hand in the divorce proceedings and tarnish his reputation. My jewelry design career is also starting to take off. A senior colleague I had worked with before saw my design drafts and was very impressed, expressing a willingness to introduce me to an internationally renowned luxury jewelry brand, Aurelie, which is currently seeking promising new designers. Life seems to be moving in a positive direction, however. I know that the calm before the storm is often the most deceptive. The murky waters of the Gu family should also be stirred up soon. That day, I was at home revising a risk assessment report on the Gu Group's overseas projects. I had compiled it based on memories from my past life and investigations in this one, preparing to give the Gu family a surprise at the right moment. Suddenly, I received a call from the hospital, on the phone. The nurse anxiously told me that Nico Gu had been in a car accident and was undergoing emergency treatment, urging me to go there immediately. I held my phone, stunned. Nico Gu had a car accident. How could it be so sudden? Could it be that Iris Yi did it? The thought flashed through my mind, but I quickly dismissed it. Although Iris Yi is malicious, she shouldn't be foolish enough to go that far. If Nico Gu dies, it would bring her no benefit. She wouldn't get a single penny of the Gu family's fortune. So, who was it? Or was it just an accident? I didn't have time to think too much. I grabbed my coat and rushed out of the house. No matter how much resentment there is between me and Nico Gu, he is still my legal husband after all. By both emotion and reason, I should go to the hospital to see him. More importantly, I need to see for myself whether this car accident will disrupt my plans. 6. The price of disability. When I hurried to the hospital, a familiar figure was sitting on the bench outside the operating room, covering her face and weeping. It was Iris Yi. She was wearing a thin silk dress, haphazardly draped with a man's suit jacket. Clearly Nico Gu's. Her face was as pale as paper, her hair disheveled, and her delicate makeup was smeared from crying. She looked utterly pitiful, evoking a sense of tenderness and sympathy. Upon seeing me, a faint trace of panic and guilt flickered in her eyes, but she quickly composed herself. Struggling to stand up, she walked toward me, her voice heavy with a nasal tone and hoarseness. Sage Su, you're here. Her voice was a bit hoarse, with traces of having cried. How is Nico Gu? I ignored her affected manner and went straight to the point, scrutinizing her with a sharp gaze. The doctors are still trying to save him. The situation isn't good. He lost a lot of blood, Iris Yi said, her eyes reddening again, looking as if she was about to burst into tears, her body swaying unsteadily as if she might collapse at any moment. I frowned but said nothing, inwardly sneering. Keep acting. At that moment, the light in the operating room went out. Several doctors in green surgical gowns walked out, removing their masks, their expressions grave and weary. Iris Yi and I stepped forward at the same time. Doctor, how is he? How is Nico? Iris Yi rushed ahead of me to the doctors, asking urgently, her voice trembling and choked with tears. The doctor glanced at us, his gaze lingering on me for a few extra seconds as if trying to discern who the patient's family member was, then sighed. "The patient has lost too much blood and has 3 broken ribs, one of which nearly punctured a lung. Although he is temporarily out of life-threatening danger, but what, doctor? Please tell us quickly." Iris grabbed the doctor's arm, her emotions running high, but his legs. "Due to the severe impact, the nerve damage is extensive, and there was some delay in getting him to the hospital, I'm afraid." The doctor spoke with difficulty, his tone heavy. "I'm afraid he won't be able to walk again. His legs won't be able to walk again. Disabled." My mind went blank with a boom. How could this be? In my previous life, although Nico Gu was cold and heartless towards me, he was always healthy and full of life, even after my death. He went on to marry Iris in a grand and glorious ceremony. How could he be crippled in this lifetime? Could it be that my rebirth, like the butterfly effect, has altered the course of certain events? No, impossible, Iris screamed, completely losing control of her emotions. "Doctor, you're lying to me. How could brother Nico be crippled? He's such a proud man. You must be lying, you're quacks." As she spoke, she rushed forward to tear at the doctor's clothes. I grabbed her just in time, my voice icy cold. "Iris, calm down. This is a hospital. How can I calm down?" Iris shook off my hand, screaming hysterically at me. "Nico got hurt because of me. It's all my fault. If he ends up disabled, how can I face him? How can I ever make it up to him? He got hurt because of her." My heart stirred, and I keenly caught the key information in her words. I looked at Iris, my gaze sharp as a knife. "What do you mean by that? What really happened with Nico Gu's car accident? You'd better explain it clearly to me." Iris seemed to realize she had let something slip, her eyes darting nervously as she stammered, "And nothing, it's just, he was on his way to see me, and accidentally." "Iris, I raised my voice, pressing her step by step. "You'd better think carefully before you speak. If anything happens to Nico Gu and it's related to you, I won't let you off." Under my relentless questioning and overwhelming presence, Iris finally broke down and haltingly recounted what had happened. It turned out that tonight, Iris had once again resorted to her old tricks, falsely claiming she was having a sudden heart attack and difficulty breathing, and called Nico Gu for help. Nico Gu, upon receiving the call, was frantic with worry and immediately dropped everything to drive to Iris' residence, concerned about Iris' illness. He sped through red lights along the way. At an unmonitored turn, he swerved sharply to avoid a suddenly emerging electric scooter, causing the car to lose control and crash into the roadside guardrail, resulting in a tragedy. After hearing Iris' account, I felt nothing but absurdity and anger. Another relapse, another heart attack. In the previous life, Iris used this foolproof excuse time and again to call Nico Gu away from me, creating countless opportunities for them to be together under the guise of hero saving the beauty. Little did I expect that in this life, she would resort to the same old trick, nearly costing Nico Gu his life and leaving him permanently disabled. This woman is nothing but an absolute jinx. A femme fatale. I stared at Iris' pale and terrified face, my gaze as cold as if it could freeze into icicles. "Iris, if anything serious really happens to Nico Gu, or if he wakes up and learns the truth, do you think he will still treat you the same as before? The price of your beauty trap is simply too high." Iris was frightened by my words and gaze, shrinking back with trembling lips, not daring to say another word. Just then, Nico Gu's parents, my parents-in-law, hurried over upon hearing the news. Upon seeing their son lying unconscious in the intensive care unit, his legs wrapped in bandages and his body covered with tubes, Gu's mother, Lin Huifang, fainted from crying on the spot. Although Gu's father, Jiu Mingyuan, tried to remain composed, his reddened eyes and slightly trembling hands betrayed the grief and panic in his heart. For a moment, the entire corridor was filled with an atmosphere of sorrow, despair, and oppression. I stood aside, coldly watching the chaotic and sorrowful scene before me, my heart a mix of conflicting emotions, yet with surprisingly little sympathy. "Nico Gu, you've finally met your day. Is this what they call karma coming too quickly? But why is it that I don't feel the slightest bit of joy in my heart? Instead, there's even a trace of an indescribable heaviness and restlessness." Perhaps it's because I know that Nico Gu's transformation, to some extent, is related to my rebirth. If I hadn't been reborn, if I hadn't used divorce to provoke him, he might not have rushed to find Iris, and this car accident might not have happened. This realization makes me feel somewhat suffocated. My revenge plan seems to have veered off its intended course because of this accident. I take a deep breath, trying to suppress these chaotic thoughts. Now is not the time to dwell on this. The priority is to deal with the mess at hand and ensure my plan can proceed smoothly. Nico Gu is disabled, and half of the Gu family's world has collapsed. This might actually be more advantageous for my next moves. 7 on the verge of collapse. Nico Gu lay in the intensive care unit for a full half-month, during which he received multiple critical condition notices, before finally being pulled back from the brink of death and transferred to a general ward. The first thing he did upon waking up was to ask to see Iris Yi. That depth of affection was truly moving. Although Gu's mother, Lin Huafang, felt heartache for her son, after the scare of nearly having to bury her own child, she also harbored deep resentment towards Iris Yi. This seductress and jinx, and naturally refused to let her enter the ward easily. Iris Yi was weeping and sobbing outside the ward, her tears falling like pear blossoms in the rain, putting on a show of deep affection that seemed almost too intense to last. She made such a scene that everyone on the entire floor learned of the touching story of the eldest son of the Gu family risking his life for his beloved confidant. In the end, it was only after Nico Gu, lying in his hospital bed, lost his temper and even threatened to go on a hunger strike that Mrs. Gu reluctantly, and with great displeasure, allowed Iris Yi to enter. What the two discussed behind closed doors in the ward remains unknown to outsiders. All I know is that from that day on, Iris Yi, under the pretense of caring for Nico Gu, openly moved into the hospital's accompanying room. She stayed by his side almost without leaving for a moment, inquiring after his well-being, serving tea and water, and putting in more effort than even a professional caregiver. And I, the legitimate wife, have instead become the superfluous one, an awkward outsider. Although Gu's father, Jiu Mingyuan, and Gu's mother, Lin Huafang, still don't treat me well, even with a hint of resentment in their eyes, blaming my unreasonable behavior for indirectly causing their son's misfortune. Nico Gu's injuries haven't fully healed yet, so they don't dare to do anything to me at this time. They're afraid that I might recklessly demand a divorce, adding to the Gu family's troubles and making them the laughingstock of high society. However, both openly and subtly, they've been hinting that I should consider the bigger picture, take the initiative to care for Nico Gu, and turn a blind eye to Iris Yi's presence. They even hope that I will voluntarily propose a divorce to make way for Iris Yi, as a way to comfort their son's wounded heart. Naturally, I won't give them what they want. Nico Gu, you still owe me, and this play is far from over. That day, as usual, I went to the hospital to deliver the soup I had personally prepared for Nico Gu. This was my duty as Mrs. Gu, meant to silence the Gu family and, more importantly, to keep an eye on their activities. Just as I reached the door of the hospital room, I heard Iris Yi's sweet, coquettish voice inside, dripping with deliberate tenderness and flattery. Nico, open your mouth. I had the housekeeper simmer this kanji all morning. It's soft and delicious. I pushed open the slightly ajar door and saw Iris Yi sitting by the bedside, holding a bowl of what looked like bland, watery kanji. She carefully scooped a spoonful, blew on it gently, and brought it to Nico Gu's lips. The two of them were intimate and oblivious to anyone else, as if they were a long-married, deeply affectionate couple. Nico Gu saw me come in, his brows subconsciously furrowed, a flicker of unease and awkwardness flashing in his eyes, but it was quickly replaced by impatience. Iris Yi, like a startled little rabbit, hurriedly put down the bowl in her hands, stood up restlessly, and timidly called out, "Sister Sage Su, you're here." I ignored the nauseating deep affection act between them, walked straight to the bedside, and placed the thermal container in my hand heavily on the nightstand, making a loud noise. "This is wild turtle soup I made for you, with premium mountain ginseng added. It's good for your wound recovery," I said flatly, my tone devoid of any emotion. Nico Gu looked at me with a complex expression, his lips parting as if he wanted to say something. "Nico, Iris Yi suddenly interrupted him in a coquettish tone, her voice tinged with a faint hint of grievance and pride. Do you not believe I can take good care of you, Sage Su? I know you're worried about Nico, but rest assured. I will take care of him tirelessly and make sure he doesn't suffer the slightest grievance. Her performance, reeking of a green tea act, made me sick to my stomach. I really wanted to dump that bowl of turtle soup right on her hypocritical face. Miss Yi, I said coldly, my gaze icy. Have you forgotten that I am Nico Gu's legally wedded wife? Taking care of him is my responsibility and duty. It's not your place, as an outsider with an unclear status, to come here and flaunt your fake concern. Who are you putting on this show for? I'm not an outsider, Iris Yi retorted urgently, her voice rising a few pitches. Nico and I are truly in love. If it weren't for you taking advantage of my time abroad and using underhanded means to marry him, I should be the one standing here right now. If it weren't for me, what? I raised an eyebrow, a hint of mockery in my tone. If it weren't for me, you two could have been together openly and legitimately. Is that it, Iris Yi? Your talent for twisting the truth has truly reached new heights. Who was the one shamelessly clinging to Nico Gu back then? And who was it that joined forces with the Gu family to kick us while we were down when the Su family was in trouble? Have you forgotten all that? Iris Yi, exposed so mercilessly, turned pale and then flushed with anger. She could only look pleadingly at Nico Gu on the hospital bed, tears welling up in her eyes. Nico Gu's expression also turned very grim. He looked at me, his voice hoarse and weak. Sage Su, don't be like this, Iris. She meant well. What happened back then is all in the past. Why must you keep bringing it up? Goodwill, I sneered, my gaze sharp as a blade. Nico Gu, have you forgotten why you're lying here? If it weren't for her false emergency call that made you rush out, would you have gotten into that car accident? Would your legs be ruined? Is this so-called goodwill of yours the reason you nearly lost your life and will spend the rest of your days in a wheelchair? My words were like sharp knives, mercilessly piercing the hearts of both Nico Gu and Iris Yi. Nico Gu's face instantly turned as pale as paper, his eyes filled with pain, regret, and a trace of undeniable despair. He subconsciously tried to move his numb legs, the helplessness nearly driving him to the brink of collapse. Iris Yi, on the other hand, reacted like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, shrieking, Sage Su, you're talking nonsense. Nico's accident was just that. An accident. It has nothing to do with me. Don't you dare try to drive a wedge between us here. It doesn't matter, I sneered, pressing forward step by step. Iris Yi, do you dare to swear to Nico Gu that if it weren't for you repeatedly feigning illness to gain sympathy and making a fool out of him, would Nico Gu have driven out recklessly in the middle of the night to look for you? Do you dare say you haven't used and manipulated him at all? Do you dare say you aren't after the power and wealth of the Gu family? I didn't, Iris Yi denied hysterically, tears gushing out like a floodgate had opened. I love brother Nico. How could I use him? Everything I did was out of love for him. Love. I looked at her face, twisted with agitation, my eyes filled with disdain and contempt. Your love is truly cheap and vicious. For the sake of what you call love, you can disregard others' lives, shamelessly destroy someone else's family, and even push your so-called lover into the abyss. Iris Yi, someone like you doesn't deserve to talk about love. You only love yourself. You venomous woman. Iris Yi trembled with rage, her words becoming reckless as she raised her hand to strike my face. I didn't dodge, just looked at her coldly, a hint of warning in my eyes. I knew she wouldn't dare, at least, not in front of Nico Gu, not while she still needed his protection. Sure enough, her hand was caught mid-air by Nico Gu, who was lying in the hospital bed. Enough, Nico Gu growled, his voice hoarse and weary, yet carrying an undeniable authority. Stop arguing. Get out, all of you, get out. He looked at me, his eyes bloodshot, his voice tinged with a hint of desperate pleading. Sage Su, I'm begging you. Please stop talking, okay, just let me have some peace. 8. The revenge begins. Watching Nico Gu in such a disheveled, nearly broken state, I suddenly felt an indescribable sense of satisfaction. There was a time when he, too, stood high and mighty, ordering me around and trampling my dignity underfoot. Now, however, he lies on the hospital bed like a stray dog, unable to even move, and can only beg for my pity in such a helpless way. Truly, the wheel of fortune turns, and retribution is inevitable. Nico Gu, I looked at him, enunciating each word clearly and coldly. Now you come begging me. Back then, when you attacked me for Iris Yi, pushed me to the ground, and nearly caused me to miscarry, why didn't you think there would be a day like this, when you stood by and watched Iris Yi drive into me, indifferent and unmoved? Why didn't you think there would be a day like this, when your Gu family conspired with Iris Yi to scheme against my Su family and seize the inheritance my parents left me? Why didn't you think there would be a day like this? My words struck like heavy blows, hitting Nico Gu's heart hard, and also striking Iris Yi, whose face had turned deathly pale beside him. Nico Gu's face instantly turned as pale as paper, his lips trembling, his eyes filled with shock, pain, and disbelief. He seemed not to have expected that I would know so many of the secrets he thought he had hidden so well. Iris Yi was so frightened that her soul seemed to flee her body. She staggered backward, nearly collapsing to the ground. Sage Su, you know everything. Nico Gu struggled to speak, his voice so hoarse it was almost inaudible. If you don't want others to know, you shouldn't have done it in the first place. I sneered. Nico Gu, did you really think you had covered your tracks perfectly? Did you think I, Sage Su, was a fool, letting you manipulate me, even helping you count the money after you sold me out? That's right, in my previous life. It wasn't until shortly before I died that I learned by chance that Nico Gu married me not because of so-called love at first sight, nor because he loved me, but because the Su family possessed a crucial overseas business channel and some key connections my father had built up before his death, all of which were desperately needed by the Gu group, which was then facing a development bottleneck. The Gu family had it all planned out from the very beginning, treating me as a stepping stone, a tool to be used. Once the Gu family successfully expanded into overseas markets and solidified their domestic position using the Su family's channels and connections, I became nothing but an eyesore, a disposable pawn, and Iris Yi was merely a pawn they used to force me into a divorce, make me voluntarily leave with nothing, and conveniently seize the Su family shares under my name. How laughable that I foolishly believed he truly loved me and was only later led astray by Iris Yi. It turns out, from start to finish, it was all an elaborately orchestrated deception. Surprised, I looked at his face, twisted with shock, my gaze icy cold. Nico Gu, did you think your acting was that good? Or did you think I, Sage Su, was truly irredeemably stupid? I've long since uncovered all the filthy deeds of your Gu family. I didn't, Sage Su, let me explain, it's not what you think. Nico Gu struggled to speak, trying to defend himself, his eyes filled with panic and fear. Enough. I cut him off sharply, unwilling to hear any more of his hypocritical excuses and lies. Nico Gu, I don't want to hear another word from you. There's nothing left to say between us. I've already signed the divorce papers and had them notarized by a lawyer. Whenever you have time, sign them, and we'll be completely done. With that, I took out the divorce agreement, prepared in triplicate, along with a thick stack of photocopied evidence of Nico Gu's marital infidelity, the transfer of marital assets, and the Gu family's commercial fraud, all of which I had ready in my bag, and threw them onto his hospital bed, scattering across his pale sheets. Nico Gu looked at the divorce agreement and the evidence that was enough to ruin his reputation. His eyes instantly dimmed. As if all his strength had been drained, he exuded a lifeless despair, as if he had aged 10 years in an instant. Iris Yi, upon seeing this, a barely noticeable glimmer of delight flashed in her eyes. If Nico Gu and Sage Su divorced, she would have the chance to rightfully become Mrs. Gu, but she was soon frightened by the evidence, her face turning pale. If these things were exposed, the Gu family would be finished, and she would be ruined along with them. She walked to the bedside and pretended to be calm, softly persuading him. Brother Nico, don't get too worked up, your health is what matters. Sister Sage Su might just be saying things in the heat of the moment. If there's any misunderstanding between you two, just talk it out and it'll be fine. These things must be fake. Sister Sage Su was probably tricked by someone. Nico Gu didn't say a word, just stared fixedly at the divorce agreement, his eyes hollow and numb. I didn't look at them again. Turning around and leaving the ward, the air was thick with the smell of disinfectant and despair. making me nauseous. Stepping out of the hospital, the sunlight outside was a bit harsh, yet it gave me a long-lost sense of relief. I took a deep breath, feeling as though the boulder that had weighed on my heart for years had finally been lifted, at least partially. Nico Gu, Iris Yi, and the Gu family. Your retribution has only just begun. Next, I will make you taste what it truly means to wish you were dead. I immediately contacted lawyer Zhong, informed him of everything that had happened at the hospital, and instructed him to start preparing the necessary procedures as soon as Nico Gu signed the divorce agreement. If he refused to sign, we would directly file for divorce and make all the evidence public. At the same time, I anonymously sent the assessment report, which highlighted the significant risks and quality issues in GU Group's overseas projects, to several well-known domestic financial media outlets and GU Group's key overseas partner. I knew that a bigger storm was about to come. 9. Retribution arrives. The crisis at the GU Group came faster and more fiercely than I had anticipated. That anonymous risk assessment report was like a bombshell, causing a huge uproar in the financial world. The report detailed numerous regulatory violations, corner-cutting, and serious quality risks in the GU Group's critical overseas project, accompanied by solid photographic evidence and internal documents. In no time, the GU Group was thrust into the spotlight. The stock price plummeted in response, hitting the limit down for several consecutive days. Partners raised doubts one after another, demanding a thorough investigation. Banks also began tightening credit and urged the GU Group to repay part of its loans ahead of schedule. GU Mingyuan, Nico's father, was already distraught over his son's situation, now faced with such a massive operational crisis, caught between internal and external pressures. He suffered a sudden cerebral hemorrhage and was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. Although his life was saved, he was left partially paralyzed, with a distorted face, and unable to care for himself. Nico's mother, Lin Huafang, spent her days in tears. She had to care for her paralyzed husband in his sickbed, comfort her disabled son in the hospital room, and brace herself to deal with banks demanding repayment and angry shareholders. She begged for help everywhere, calling in every favor and using all available connections. But no one was willing to lend a hand in such dire times. When the tree falls, the monkeys scatter. When the wall collapses, everyone pushes. Such is the fickleness of human relationships. Nico Gu, confined to a wheelchair with his completely paralyzed legs, watched the negative news reports about the GU Group on television and listened to his mother's desperate cries. He sank into deep despair and self-blame. He wanted to help but was powerless, forced to watch helplessly as the family business he had once been so proud of crumbled step by step. Just as the GU family was overwhelmed with troubles and living from hand to mouth, Iris Yi, who had always been by Nico Gu's side playing the role of a deeply devoted partner, quietly disappeared from the hospital at this very moment. Not only did she take all the valuable gifts Nico Gu had given her, but she also made off with the last bit of savings in Nico Gu's private account. A few days later, Nico Gu received a letter delivered by someone on behalf of Iris Yi. In the letter, Iris Yi tearfully expressed her deep love for Nico Gu, but she couldn't bear to see him suffer because of her, nor did she want to be a burden to the Gu family. Therefore, she felt she had no choice but to leave, wishing Nico Gu a speedy recovery and hoping he would find true happiness. How laughable and pitiful. Back then, she vowed to love him, promising to stay by his side for a lifetime, never to abandon him. Now, as soon as the GU family encountered trouble, she immediately distanced herself, absconded with the money, and fled faster than anyone else. This is what she called true love, so cheap it's utterly appalling. Nico Gu probably never expected that the woman he cherished so deeply would turn out to be such a heartless, greedy, and selfish person. After reading the letter, he locked himself in his room for 3 days and nights without eating or drinking. When he finally emerged, he looked utterly defeated, his eyes hollow, as if he had aged more than a decade in an instant. With none of his former vigor and spirit left, Gu's mother looked at her son's despondent state, her heart aching. Yet she was at a loss for what to do. She even swallowed her pride and came to me, her voice choked with tears. Kneeling down to beg me, she pleaded with me to help the GU family through this crisis. For the sake of our past relationship and because Nico Gu still deeply loved me, she said that if I were willing to help, she would immediately have Nico Gu sign the divorce agreement and give me half of the Gu family's remaining assets, all in the hope that I could save the Gu family and protect her son. As I looked at her face, which had aged and withered rapidly from exhaustion and despair, and her eyes, bloodshot and full of pleading, I felt an inexplicable sense of satisfaction. "Madam Gu," I said calmly, my tone even and unemotional, "do you remember how the Gu family treated me? How you schemed against my Su family? Do you recall how you favored Iris Yi, how you insulted me and forced me to leave with nothing? Now that the Gu family is in trouble, why should I help? Am I some kind of saint? Su, I know it was our fault in the past, we were blind, and we wronged you." "Wronged the Su family, Mrs. Gu pleaded tearfully, kowtowing repeatedly. "But please, for Nico's sake, he's already in such a miserable state now. For the sake of the genuine kindness he once showed you, please show some mercy and help us. As long as you're willing to help, I'd be willing to serve you like a horse or an ox." Genuine kindness. I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh, as if I'd heard the biggest joke in the world. "Mrs. Gu, are you mistaken? Did Nico Gu ever treat me with genuine kindness? What he loved was never me. He only ever loved himself and the false glory and wealth of your Gu family. As for your offer to serve me like a horse or an ox, I dare not accept it. I'm afraid it would only dirty my home." With that, I ignored her tearful pleas and curses and had security escort her out. "I won't interfere in the Gu family's affairs. The predicament they're in today is entirely of their own making. They've reaped what they sowed and gotten what they deserved. I just need to watch quietly as they step by step head toward their downfall, toward the ending they deserve." After some time, the Gu group finally couldn't hold on any longer. Under the immense pressure of massive debts and various scandals, it officially announced bankruptcy and liquidation. All the real estate and luxury cars under the Gu family's name were seized and auctioned off by the court to repay the debts. Gu Mingyuan, the father of the Gu family, couldn't bear these successive blows. His condition worsened, and he passed away quietly one late night. Gu's mother, Lin Huafang, along with her disabled son Nico Gu, fell from the clouds into the mud. Once a glamorous and wealthy socialite, she became a destitute and homeless beggar, relying on meager government aid and scavenging through trash to survive. She lived a life of constant hunger and displacement. Meanwhile, Iris Yi, who had embezzled the money and fled, quickly used the ill-gotten gains to reinvent herself after leaving Nico Gu. She soon attached herself to another wealthy and powerful magnate, even richer and more influential than the Gu family. She believed that with her beauty and cunning, she could once again live a glamorous and luxurious life. However, she probably never expected that the magnate's wife was a formidable figure with deep connections and ruthless methods, who particularly despised homewreckers and mistresses. It wasn't long before Iris Yi was cornered in her apartment by the magnate's wife and her associates. She was publicly slapped, stripped naked, and had compromising photos and videos taken of her. Then, she was thrown out onto the bustling street like trash. Those unsightly photos and videos quickly spread across the entire internet. A generation of innocent beauties who rose to fame by their looks were completely disgraced, reduced to public enemies that everyone condemns, with an even more miserable fate than the Gu mother and son. It's truly satisfying. Evil deeds bring evil retribution, through special channels. I had these spectacular videos and photos accidentally delivered to Nico Gu, who is currently undergoing treatment in a mental hospital. I wonder how he felt upon seeing the woman he once deeply loved end up like this. Was it satisfaction, or a sense of shared sorrow? 10 Reborn from Nirvana. That day, I was in the independent design studio that the Aura Lee Jewelry Company had specially established for me, reviewing the design drafts for the latest season. Thanks to my innovative and unique design concepts and my precise grasp of market trends, several pieces of jewelry I designed were met with enthusiastic market response as soon as they were launched, with sales repeatedly hitting new highs. As a result, I had rapidly gained fame in the international jewelry design world. My assistant, Xiao Chen, knocked on the door and came in to inform me that a Mr. Gu, who was in a wheelchair, was waiting in the lobby downstairs and had specifically asked to see me. I frowned, understanding the situation but also feeling somewhat surprised. Nico Gu, how did he find his way here? What does he want from me? Could it be that he's still not giving up and wants to get back together? Or is he here to stand up for Iris Yi? I put down the design draft in my hand, stood up, and said to Xiao Chen, "Let him come up and wait for me in the meeting room. I want to see what tricks he's trying to pull off." Looking the way he does now, a few minutes later, I entered the reception room. Nico Gu sat alone in a wheelchair, his back to the door, gazing out at the bustling cityscape. He was wearing a faded, cheap t-shirt and jeans, his hair disheveled and his face unshaven. He had become so emaciated that he was almost unrecognizable. Looking utterly destitute and dejected, a far cry from the once proud and spirited young master of the Gu family. If it weren't for the faintly handsome features still visible on his face, I might not have recognized him at all. I walked over and sat down on the sofa opposite him, getting straight to the point with a distant tone. "What is it, Mr. Gu?" Nico Gu slowly turned his wheelchair to face me. His face was flushed with an unnatural redness, his eyes were clouded. As if he had been drinking or was suffering from the torment of illness, he looked at me, his eyes as complex as a tangled mess, filled with regret, unwillingness, pain, and a hint of humble pleading. "Sage Su," he spoke in a hoarse voice, each word uttered with great difficulty. Can we still go back to how we were?" Looking at his pitiful and pathetic state, I suddenly laughed, a laugh tinged with sarcasm. Go back to the way things were. Does he think there's still a before between us? Does he think a flippant "let's go back to the way things were" can erase all the pain and hurt he's caused me? Nico Gu, I looked at him, my gaze as cold as a blade, my tone calm and steady, yet carrying a chill that sent shivers down one's spine. "Do you really think we can go back? Do you think you still have any right to say those words to me?" My gaze and tone stung him. He lowered his head in pain, his voice trembling with an uncontrollable sob and despair. "I know I was wrong before, I was blind, I hurt you, I let you down, but, Sage Su, I really regret it. Every day, I've been filled with regret, regretting why I didn't cherish you, why I let that bitch Iris Yi blind me, regret." I let out a scornful laugh, my tone dripping with disdain and mockery. "Nico Gu, your regret is far too cheap, and far too late. If the Gu family hadn't gone bankrupt, if you weren't in the state you are now, would you still regret it? If I weren't the chief designer of Aurelie, but just a discarded woman with nothing, would you still come to me and spout all this high-sounding nonsense?" He suddenly looked up at me, his eyes filled with pain, resentment, and a hint of the shame of being exposed. "Sage Su, I know you don't believe me, but I truly loved you, even if marrying you back then did involve considerations of family interests. It's not like I had no feelings for you at all, otherwise, I wouldn't have loved me." I burst into laughter as if I had just heard the most ridiculous joke in the world, laughing so hard that tears nearly welled up in my eyes. "Nico Gu, stop deceiving yourself, and stop trying to disgust me with your cheap lies. You never loved me. What you loved was the Sage Su who could give everything for you, who could satisfy all your vanity and desire for control. What you loved was yourself. The pitiful power and status of your Gu family." "No, that's not true," he retorted urgently, his emotions running high as he tried to grab my hand, but I avoided it with disgust. "Enough," I cut him off sharply, unwilling to hear any more of his hypocritical explanations and lies. "Nico Gu, I don't want to hear another word from you. Between us, it's long over. The divorce agreement. You'll sign it whether you want to or not. I've already filed for divorce in court. And I believe the outcome will come soon. From now on, you go your way, and I'll go mine. We have nothing to do with each other anymore." After saying that, I stood up, ready to leave this suffocating place. "Sage Su," he suddenly called out from behind, his voice tinged with a hint of hysterical despair and unwillingness. "Do you really hate me that much? Enough to leave me with nothing? To make my life worse than death?" I stopped in my tracks, slowly turned around, and looked at his face. Twisted with despair, word by word, clearly and cruelly, I said, "Nico Gu, I don't hate you." A faint glimmer of hope flashed in his eyes, as if he had grasped the last lifeline. "Because," I paused, the smile on my lips cold and mocking. You are no longer worth my hatred. To me, you are nothing but an insignificant stranger, a piece of trash that should have been cleared from my life long ago. With that, I turned and left the reception room without looking back, leaving Nico Gu alone to slowly sink into the abyss of despair and regret. Nico Gu, between us, it was over the moment you repeatedly hurt me and trampled on my dignity for Iris Yi. In this lifetime, I will never give you another chance to hurt me again. I will live my life to the fullest, more brilliantly than anyone else, so that those who once looked down on me and hurt me can only gaze at my back, spending the rest of their lives in regret and envy. Later on, I never saw Nico Gu again. I heard that, unable to endure the successive blows and the reality of his own disability, he completely lost his mind and was sent to a compulsory psychiatric hospital. He spends his days in a delirious state, babbling my name and Iris Yi's name, sometimes repenting, sometimes cursing. Gu's mother, Lin Huifang, after suffering the successive blows of losing her husband, her son's disability and madness, and the dissipation of the family fortune, also completely collapsed on a cold winter night. She froze to death on the street, and I, through my own efforts and talent, have carved out a place for myself in the international jewelry design world, becoming a globally renowned top designer and establishing my own jewelry brand, Phoenix Nirvana, symbolizing rebirth from the ashes. By my side, there is also someone who truly loves, understands, and cherishes me. He is not a wealthy aristocrat or a business prodigy, but a gentle and refined university professor who has given me an unprecedented sense of security and happiness. We watch sunrises and sunsets together, savor delicacies from around the world, and leave the footprints of our love in every corner of the globe. Life is simple yet happy, peaceful yet beautiful. Occasionally, on a sunny afternoon, I also think of Nico Gu, that man who once made me love so humbly and hurt so deeply, but in my heart, there is no longer any turmoil, not a single ripple. It's as if he was just an insignificant passerby in my life, a long-buried memory. What's past is past. People must always look forward, always learn to reconcile with the past, and then embrace the future even better. Isn't that so? Sunlight streams through the large floor-to-ceiling window of the studio, spilling over me, warm and filled with the scent of hope. I smile faintly, pick up the coffee beside me, and take a gentle sip. How nice! A new life has just begun, and the darkness of the past will ultimately become the nourishment for my rebirth. The end.